Mr. Edge, are you ready? Okay, we'll get started momentarily. Anywhere you like. We should have enough for everybody here. No, you can sit right here. Yeah, there's one for you, Betty, and Sharon. Are you ready, Sharon? Okay. Good morning, and welcome to the 2020-21 Wildcat Wall of Fame ceremony. I'm going to introduce Bart Morick. Bart has been part of the Wall of Fame committee since its inception in 2017, and he is going to open today's induction ceremony. Bart Morick.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to repeat Nate's words and welcome you all to the 4th and the 5th induction ceremony to the Wildcat Wall of Fame. The inductees that we are including today, the 6 inductees, have done a fabulous job over their long careers in the school district and in the community. It's good to see so many people here that I recognize from years and years past. So I'd like to thank you all for coming. I'd like to thank all the families for supporting them during their careers here at Belleville. And these 6 people definitely show the Wildcat way. So thank you very much for coming, and enjoy the program.
Again, thanks to Bart for opening up today's ceremony. He, along with Jerry Remy, and I saw Jerry and Yvonne here already, and Gary Ziegler, who had another interviews, actually, I believe, for Village Board, actually for the Village Board, I believe, had a committee meeting today. So those 3 have been part of the committee as our community members since its start. We've also had Betty Wolf and then Chad Hodgson as our staff members who have been on the committee since the very start. And then every year we have 3 students that are on the committee. They change each year, and this year they're all members of the Young Samaritans Club at the high school. And we have Lauren Bartles, Roxana Grunewald, and Karina Simmons, who are actually all here today as well. And you're going to hear from Roxana and Karina. They will actually induct 3 of our 6 our inductees today. So I wanted to thank the students for being here as well. When the Wildcat Wall of Fame committee launched in 2017, the vision of the school board was to establish a recognition program to celebrate the feats and accomplishments of community members, staff members, and Belleville High School alumni. In just 4 short years, the Wildcat Wall of Fame has reached that goal, inducting individuals from each of those stakeholder groups. Today, our inductees will join John Becker, Nancy Fay, Leroy Freitag, and I believe Mr. Freitag is here. There he is, up front and center. Good afternoon, Mr. Freitag. Barb Funseth, C.H. Hageman, Yvonne Remy. I mentioned Yvonne was here as well and was able to join us. Brad Steiner, who is also here. Welcome to Brad, as members of the Wildcat Wall of Fame. How about a round of applause for Mr. Freitag, Mrs. Remy, and Mr. Steiner for their graciousness in joining us today as past members. Due to the pandemic and gathering restrictions last spring, summer, and fall, we will honor 6 new Wall of Fame inductees this morning. In the past year, we lost Carl Multer, a 2020 inductee, and Barb Funseth, a member of the Wildcat Wall of Fame's inaugural class. So we are so happy to have Mr. Multer's sons here with us today. And I know Barb is here in spirit. One of the highlights of the early ceremonies was her rendition of Wheels on the Bus with audience participation. Today's ceremony is a culmination of lifetimes and careers. I've had the pleasure of working directly with 4 of today's 6 inductees. I'll try not to get emotional here. I know some of them probably will. I'm in awe of their dedication and time invested into the school district and community by our new inductees. For those who came before me, it's been a pleasure to get to know their families through this process. In emailing back and forth with Joanne Howell and Jane Gemrazi, Kenneth Cramer's daughters, and Jeff and Mike Molter, Carl's sons, and working on their father's biographies together, I feel as I have gotten to know them a little bit as well. And I know Joanne and Jane are on the live stream this morning and couldn't be here. Before we begin, I'd like to thank several staff members who have played a critical role in the Wall of Fame process. First, to Mr. Chad Hodson. You might not be able to see him. He's on the track here. He leads the Belleville High School's Young Samaritans Club. And today's ceremony would not have been able to happen without his efforts and those of his students in the research portion of this endeavor. So thank you to Mr. Hodson. I also want to thank John Beanash, our fantastic art teacher here. He always comes through with our plaque portraits completed by either himself or his talented art students. If you look in your programs, you will find on the inner 2 pages that Mr. Beanash is responsible for 3 of the line drawings of our 6 inductees today. And then I do want to point out Annika Esselstrom, Maddie Weber, who was a 2020 Belleville High School graduate, and then Catherine Booth are all students here at BHS that have also done some of our line drawings and want to recognize their talents and input in this process as well. And then finally, Mr. Ed Newman creates the commemorative replica plaques given to each inductee. And then Mrs. Betsy Jenkins proofreads, I appreciate that, every biography to avoid any errors that I might have on the plaques before they go to production. So to begin today's festivities, I will bring Karina Simmons to the stage to introduce our first member of the 2021 Wall of Fame class, Sharon Moss.
Detailed, helpful, caring, and supportive are all words that can be used to describe Miss Moss. She gained the role of the go-to lady, as Betty calls it, for the students and teachers of Belleville School District. Whether there's a guest speaker in the auditorium or someone's mom ran over their Chromebook, students and teachers have always gone to Miss Moss for their help. Mrs. Moss started her career in the Belleville School District in 1986 and then dedicated 34 years of excellent service, not only to the students and teachers of Belleville, but also to the various community members. She started her career in the middle school setting up a database used by the special education department, and then she moved to the elementary school's computer lab in 1990 before the high school in 1997, where she is today. Mrs. Moss had retired as a school librarian in 2020. However, she missed students asking for a charged Chromebook so much that she just had to come back and work part-time again. Since she had been back, she continued to work mainly behind the scenes. However, it is this work that she put in behind the scenes that made things run smoothly throughout the school district. A few of these highlights are teaching computer classes for elementary school students, ensuring that every student had a working Chromebook with a district transition to one-to-one devices, designing and creating every certificate used during award ceremonies, serving as president of the Belleville Educational Support Team for 18 years and a representative since it began, advocating on behalf of secretaries, aides, and custodians, coordinating requests from outside businesses and organizations, ensuring that these community groups had what they needed to hold events at schools, and gathering a complete listing of all village and school events from local organizations and the various school groups to build the village community calendar each year. Now the list could go on and on about all of the great things that Mrs. Moss has done for the school district over the years. But for all the reasons that I have mentioned today, along with so many others, please join me in congratulating Miss Moss with her very own spot on the Wildcat Wall of Fame.
Thank you, Karina. I think you should make my speech. First, I would like to thank the Young Samaritans Club, too, and its advisor, Mr. Hodgson, for all the time and hard work they put into this Wall of Fame project, and especially to Karina. This club helps the Belleville community in many ways, and it's all very much appreciated. I feel very honored to be here with the rest of these nominees today. I received a call from Mr. Perry, and when that call comes from the district administrator, what is the first thing you think? What did I do now? He proceeded to explain about the nomination. I have to admit, I did not make it easy for him. I was sure there must be some criteria to be met in order to even be nominated for this, and I couldn't possibly meet any or most of them. But he was very convincing, and here I am, making a speech and all. I have been working at Belleville Schools, as Karina said, in some capacity in technology since 1986. I first worked behind the scenes part-time to help set up a database for the special ed department. In 1990, I was asked if I would like to work at the elementary school, which had a just completed addition with new kindergarten classrooms, a library, and a computer lab. I would be working with 5 to 8-year-olds in the new computer lab. I quickly learned what fun this was, and so satisfying to see their faces light up when they touched a key on the keyboard and something happened on the screen. I sometimes thought, are they actually paying me to do this job? The staff at the ES was very supportive. We worked well together, and I learned so much about how small children's minds work from them. I also got involved with the adjacent library and learned to love that as well. The two seem to go hand in hand. I've worked with 5 librarians here and 2 dedicated library aides. We all have agreed that making the library accessible for students, be as productive as possible, was an important goal. We often tell everyone, the library has everything. When the high school was completed in 1997, it was strongly suggested, that means in union terms, involuntary transfer, that I relocate to the library in the new building. Who wouldn't want to work in that brand new library / multi-purpose area and watch the seasons change on the trees of Oliver Trail through that wall of windows? It was gorgeous. And the move was sure a change for me. From helping 5 to 8-year-olds put on coats and showing them where the space bar is on the keyboard, to getting high schoolers to even look at me, let alone speak, was quite the culture shock. I even think my 3 daughters thought I went to the high school just to work to follow them around. I did not. I have been blessed to have supervisors and coworkers throughout my computer career who were willing to share their knowledge with me. I have been an on-the-job learner since 1965 to this very day. To think that the first computer I worked with took up a whole room, read holes in punched cards, I have proof of that, I have actual proof, and has evolved into a much more powerful device that can fit in your hand is still remarkable to me. It takes a vivid imagination to imagine yourself back in 1965 when every piece of information about anything was punched on these 80-column IBM cards. Thousands of them, thousands of them. The original machines that processed those cards were so big and heavy, they had to be housed in the basement because the regular floors of the buildings could not support them. When the punched cards got jammed going through the machine's feeders, the whole process stopped cold until the cards were replaced, often more than once during a job. Oh, for the good old days, or maybe not. Every school and community project, every event that I have been involved with here in Belleville has been a joint effort between myself and the wonderful people that I've worked beside. We all work hard together to be sure the students get what they need to succeed, celebrate their accomplishments, and become lifelong learners, and that is the best feeling ever. In the words of Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs fame, there is a lot of stuff we can't control, but it is completely in our power to decide what the definition of a good job is. That's up to us. I have dedicated my life to try to doing a good job. Thank you.
Thursday night, we were able to have a retirement party at a local establishment. And one of the things that I said there that I'll say again because I think it's worth repeating, this actually comes from Mr. Hodson, is Sharon is one of the most unassuming and humble people that you will ever meet. But what she's done for the last 30+ years has made these kind of events, public events, our teachers, administrators look fantastic out in front of the public, and she takes very or little no credit for all that. She works behind the scenes and does just a fantastic job, so I want to thank Sharon. I now invite Aissa Cisse to the stage to introduce Carl Multer, who is represented by his sons Jeff and Mike this morning.
Carl Molter served Belleville High School for 42 years from 1958 to 1999 and was involved in the community of Belleville until about 2018 when he moved to Atlanta. He is described as a person who is always willing to take on a new challenge and someone who embraced the meaning of community. Mr. Multer spent about 60 years of his life in Belleville, where he and his wife Helen built their house and raised their 2 sons, Jeff and Mike. He was an active member of the community club and assisted with many projects throughout Belleville, in addition to the role he played in the school district. Carl Multer served as the high school's main science teacher, the athletic director, the letter club director, and started the school's photo club during his time at Belleville. Past students of Mr. Multer have described him as being a very committed and dedicated teacher, and it shows. As the athletic director at the time, Mr. Multer played a large role in establishing female sports at Belleville High School for the first time, and he was known to come in on weekends during his personal time to open the photo lab and work with students with whatever they needed. He truly wanted kids to be able to branch out and thrive in whatever they did. During his free time, Mr. Multer enjoyed spending quality time with his family and doing outdoor activities such as fishing and gardening. Unfortunately, in the last year, Mr. Multer has passed away and could not be here to be personally recognized for the connection he made with his students and the things he accomplished during his time at Belleville. We are honored to finally be able to award someone as deserving and hardworking as Carl Multer, and would like to thank his sons for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Aissa. It's a privilege to be here, an honor to accept this award on behalf of my late father. Of course, he passed in February. And Dad would certainly be honored to be with on this crew of inductees. He worked with all of you and definitely respected working with you. My dad loved being in this community, and it was really tough when he left in 2017, but certainly loved this community and teaching and being athletic director. After his death in February, got time to reflect on who he was and got a lot of feedback and comments online, and it was really refreshing to see how he affected all these students' lives, people he came in contact with, and a few good stories, funny stories. Apparently he was a bad bus driver. I didn't know that. That was something. Maybe that's how I got to learn my fast driving skills. But seriously, a lot of comments describing him were kind, caring, honorable, patient, an honorable man, and a great teacher. That was really refreshing. It made me proud to be his son. He certainly made an impact on a lot of people. my father was the guy behind the scenes as athletic director, working right here, setting up the track, setting up the football games, doing a lot of behind the scenes work. And this spot right here brings me good memories as a kid, back when this was just a asphalt track, helping him on this field. He always talked about this is where they need to play football, and I think when they finally built this, it was a dream come true to him, have the football up here versus down at the park. He juggled a lot of duties between his teaching and athletic director duties. It brings me back to a funny little memory that my friends and I talk about. Of course, Dad taught chemistry and biology, and he would sometimes take phone calls in class. And chemistry class back in the 80s, when, of course, I went to school here, he was taking a call. But before that, he set us up with the Bunsen burners and let us, and took the call. Of course, I think he regretted that. He came back. My friend Matt was teaching us how to blow glass, which was not part of the chemistry experiment. And Shane Olson, my good friend, was doing what he wasn't supposed to do with Bunsen burners, which was a problem for him. But my dad, the point of the story, my dad was angry, but he was pretty calm. That was my dad's personality. He was very calm and collected, and we knew he was mad, but needless to say, he did not take a call in our class after that, and too many industrious boys in that chemistry class. But looking back, I guess trying to come to words, my dad was pretty humble and man of a few words. It was tough to find what he would say today, but I think if he was here today, he would simply thank the administration for supporting him during his athletic director duties. And he would thank the coaches and students and athletes for making his job fulfilling and fun. He loved being here. He loved seeing the success of the athletic programs. And after I graduated in '88, he would talk about it. The state championship in '96, he was really excited about that, all the conference champions, and the success of the volleyball program of what JP did. He was really proud of that. And he really cared about this community and cared about the school, cared about the success of the athletic program. And that was just him. Lastly, of course, he would thank my mom, his wife of 42 years, which, she passed away in 2006, but thank her because he spent a lot of time up here. And I know Mom would complain every once in a while about that, but she knew he loved it. And so he really, it was tough when he lost my mom. But he loved this community, and it was tough for him to leave. But I want to thank the YCLAT Hall of Fame. This means a lot to me, means a lot to my family, to recognize my dad's hard work all those years. Thank you.
Good morning. Mike summarized everything pretty well there, but just to add to that, my dad truly, he loved Belleville. He was here almost 60 years, and even when he started getting a little sick, Mike and I were in Atlanta, and the community here really stepped up, and a lot of things happened that we weren't even aware of. Little small things. He had great friends here that supported him, even after my mom died. What a wonderful community, and that's what it's all about. You should all be very proud, little small things that you did for my dad. So Mike and I and our families can't thank you enough for that. He had great friends here, still does, that care about him, care about what he did in life, and we appreciate that very much. Like Mike said, my dad was a very kind, loving human being. Even when he left for Atlanta back in 2017, the last memory I have actually is on this field in 2017. He was here, and 2 weeks after that, unfortunately had an accident, and we brought him back to Atlanta. But so it's a little bittersweet being here, but my dad loved it here. He loved that night. When he got down to Atlanta, the people at his assisted living place just loved him because he would always help out. And that was my dad's nature, just helping out. He was very kind. He would do anything for anybody, and all the people there just loved him. He would, when he was physically able, he would push people around in their wheelchairs. He would set up dinner. I got a call one morning from the director, and she's like, "Jeff, you'll never guess what your dad did last night." I'm like, "What?" Well, it was 4 in the morning, and I called in because an alarm went off, and it was supposed to bounce off the main switchboard and go to the nurse's station. Well, your dad answered at 4 a.m. "Hello, this is Carl." And she's like, "Carl, what are you doing answering the phone?" "Well, and I came down here and nobody was manning the front desk, so I thought I'd better sit here and man the front desk." So that was my dad, just trying to help out. And that was his nature. Mike talked about, memories as kids, and I remember working with my dad, setting up the football field out at the community park, and we loved doing that as kids. That was 45 years ago, believe it or not. And he'd get up every morning at 5 a.m., and looking back on it, and he'd get us up at 5 a.m. sometimes as well. He had a trap route, which is kind of unusual, and we'd go around in a 1950s Ford truck and go out and check trap lines, and it was crazy. And as kids, 5 a.m., but looking back on it, those are great memories. And he'd go drive the bus and probably almost hit people, but that was my dad. He was very low-key, very kind, but it's a couple times I recall where, Mike and I were kind of like Ralphie in A Christmas Story. If my dad ever swore, it was a big thing, but I can recall a couple times. Once when I was a freshman in high school, we took a trip down to the Milwaukee School of Engineering. There was a science fair. It was myself and 3 other kids and my dad driving. So we were in the driver's ed car, and of course, on the way back, there was a brake. There was a brake there, and there was also this button. I had no idea what the button was, but being a freshman boy, I pushed the button, and it was a kill switch for the engine. I think those are no longer around, but my dad's driving skills, the engine turned off, and there was no power steering, and he got to the side of the road, and yeah, that was not good for me. It's like, "What are you doing?" "Well, there was a button there, Dad, so I pushed it." Another time, next year, I was a sophomore in high school, and I was working at McDonald's in Madison. So during lunch hour, myself and Brian Kittles and a couple other kids went up to get our checks, and my dad's class was the next class. So we wasted too much time up there and started going to my dad's class period. I'm like, "Don't worry, my dad will cover for us, so we can skip his class." Well, that was not good. So we got back to the school, and it was not good for me. Not good for the other kids as well. So note to self and anybody else, don't ever skip your dad's class. He's not going to cover for you. So in the end, thank you very much for this. It's a great community. My dad loved it here, and we're very, very appreciative of this award. Thank you.
I just want to add, and Bart could testify to this, that Carl's name came up from the very beginning of early nominees. And when you have people like C.H. Hegeman and where do they fit in, others that had already passed or were soon to, it's great that we finally got Carl in because he was a name that came up right from the very, very beginning. To present Kenneth Cramer, we'll bring to the stage Roxana Grunenwald. Mr. Kramer's daughters, Joanne and Jane, could not be here today, but are watching on the live stream. Greg Wolf, a former student of Mr. Kramer, and one of his nominators, will speak on behalf of the family after Roxana.
Whoa. Kenneth Cramer was an instructor, visionary, and an inspiration to those around him. He was a high school agriculture, industrial arts, and science teacher for 42 years, 31 of those here at Belleville. He ran a farm institute and began the Belleville Community Fair, financed by the community club's notorious barbecue chicken fundraiser that then evolved into the community picnic, which incorporated produce from his own personal garden and fresh pastries made with love by his wife, enforcing the importance of small individual contributions that create the sense of community. He was a well-respected, dedicated teacher to his students, and his instruction was not limited to agriculture. He was a life coach who valued the virtues of honesty, self-discipline, and respect of self and others. He championed one of the most highly respected FFA programs in the state,
and brought in specialists to give lectures and hands-on experience to FFA members to promote forward thinking and ingenuity. As an advisor to FFA, he accompanied students to yearly conferences and prepared them for leadership roles. He even started adult and young farmer classes which met in the evenings to provide education on new innovations in agriculture. Out of school, Mr. Kramer consulted with area farmers on soil sampling, milk testing, and crop planting to disseminate novel techniques to them and to acquire new skills that he would then pass on to FFA members and those who attended his farm classes. He was a role model for both students and teachers, promoting harmony between the young FFA students and established farmers, and he greatly benefited the community of Belleville. Mr. Kramer led a farm institute for over 20 years that was held at the high school in cooperation with Dane and Greene County agents and the local community club. This organization attracted people from all over Wisconsin to give lectures and to experience Belleville's burgeoning FFA and farming programs. He has rightfully received awards for his work in Belleville. He earned the National FFA Leadership Award, the Horde's Dairyman Cattle Judging Award, and was recognized on retirement in 1977 by UW-Madison, where he received his master's degree for his 42 years in teaching. Outside of the classroom, Kenneth Cramer was an avid UW Badger basketball watcher, never missing a game on TV. He built his house and his life here in Belleville and would selflessly help his wife bake pastries for his classes and for the chili suppers he hosted. He loved gardening and could often be found in his garden in retirement, reinforcing the importance of finding intrinsic passions through academics and hobbies. Kenneth Cramer was proud of Belleville, and this pride manifested into ceaseless efforts to improve the community spirit in and out of school. He truly loved agriculture, reminding us that we can follow our interests, as passion and profession are not mutually exclusive. He was a leader in Wisconsin's agriculture industry and directly impacted both his students and those around him. One of his former students enshrined Mr. Kramer's spirit perfectly and saying that he was the backbone of rural Belleville. Even before coming to Belleville to teach, Mr. Kramer served in the Army Air Corps in World War II, where he specialized and taught radar. We are truly grateful for all of Kenneth Cramer's contributions, and we thank him for his service. And we are so glad to induct him today into the Wildcat Wall of Fame.
Good morning. My name is Greg Wolf, and I want to tell you what an honor it is for me to represent the family of Mr. Kenneth W. Kramer. Mr. Kramer was a great teacher, and it was a privilege for myself and others who had him as a teacher to nominate him for the Wall of Fame. He was so dedicated and worked so hard as a teacher. It was actually, as we got older, it was actually great to watch. He would kind of tell you little things once in a while, and he called me aside one day, and he told me that I needed to plant my corn earlier. And at that time, I was going to high school, and I was doing the planting at home, and we wouldn't get started until June, but that was his advice, and it was great advice. He came in 1946, and of course he taught more than just ag classes in the beginning, but after a while he was able to concentrate on ag, and we always called it shop. He was able to concentrate on those until his retirement in 1977. The kids changed a lot over those years, and Mr. Kramer's dedication and his way and methods probably didn't. So it was a little tougher for him sometimes. But we learned so much from him. I enjoyed his classes always. Even this old bird guy had weeks and weeks of dairy nutrition, dairy breeding, dairy for weeks and weeks, but I still enjoyed his classes. He was dedicated to everything. He worked in the summers visiting his students to check on their livestock projects or their work programs. He taught, of course, it's already been mentioned, he taught the night classes for farmers. And his Farm Institute, I remember that being part of them, and you'd even have a lunch, but he'd bring in so many different speakers to talk to farmers. And no other school anywhere that I ever knew had anything like the Farm Institute. So it was quite unique. He was dedicated to community, and I'm glad that she shared with you some of the things that he accomplished and how the fair that they started evolved into the community picnic. And of course, last but not least, his dedication to his family, his wife Helen and his daughters Jane and Joanne. And with that, I want to close my part of it. He was a great man. He was humble. So what do you say? I mean, he's just he made us students. He made us better farmers, or better in agribusiness. But you know what? He made us better human beings too. Thank you, Mr. Kramer. I've also been honored today to read thoughts from Joanne and Jane. Our family thanks all who nominated and selected Mr. Kenneth Cramer for the Belleville Wall of Fame. Being a humble man who did not brag about his accomplishments, he would be so very pleased and honored you recognized him for this award. Dad was 100% committed to Belleville High School and to the entire Belleville community. The commitment began in 1946 when he first arrived and continued throughout his life. When asked to be involved in any school or community project, he rarely said no. He provided constructive ideas, always carried his work through to completion, and frequently went beyond what was asked or expected. Often he initiated ideas for projects that were adopted. Early in his time at Belleville High, when there were only a handful of teachers and each had to play many roles, he spent each Friday night at home football games manning the ticket booth. Yes, those were the days when that existed. Long before his term life coach was popular, he considered him to be just that. He often mentored his students, whether young or old, in one environment if needed he could give individual instruction. He wanted all students to strive to be the very best they could be. Whether teaching students during the day or farmers during the evening classes, he was always focused on their success. Pride in the success of others was his priority, knowing that successful students would have pride in themselves and do their very best. Some of his students may have thought Mr. Kramer to be a strict disciplinarian, but they were often the first to admit they learned from him and remembered when he taught them. His teaching was not only subject matter, but how to be honest and caring person who would be ready to face the real world. He saw potential in everyone and expected them to live up to their potential. He was exceptional for himself as well. He never stopped learning. He attended many summer schools at UW to obtain his MS degree. We are so proud that his achievements will be remembered on this wall of fame. We also celebrate the other 2020 inductees, Carl Multer and Betty Wolf, and those chosen in 21 for the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to all the families who support these inductees and help them in their many accomplishments, Jane Jamosi and Joanne Howell. Thank you so much.
Thanks to Greg for doing that, and we will send the commemorative plaque to Joanne in the mail shortly. To present Betty Wolf, we welcome Alexandra Steckless to the stage.
Some of you may remember an old TV show entitled Everybody Loves Raymond. Well, we have our own version of Ray Romano right here in Belleville because everybody loves Betty. Ours is also smart, fun, witty, and way prettier than Ray. Born and raised in Belleville, Betty has continuously shared her talents and love to the community. As Katie O'Dare said, Betty is everybody's second mom and guidance counselor. She is Belleville because she has always been there. This couldn't exemplify Betty more. Graduating from Belleville High School in 1970, she continued to leave her imprint as an instructional aide and eventually secretary in the elementary school and now currently in the high school. Alongside being part of the Belleville School District, she has led the 4-H Busy Beavers Club for 25 years. She's also very supportive of her fellow colleagues, throwing an end of summer party, which according to Steve Vogler has mean sub sandwiches. What is most notable about Betty is her love for students. Between attending or volunteering for any school event, she's there for students in ways that most people don't see. She's played Secret Santa for students who wouldn't have had presents on Christmas, and has provided for students both financially and emotionally. Her love is felt by all students at the Belleville School District, and that's why Betty is so incredibly deserving of this honor.
I'm crying already. I got a few props, so hang in there for a second. Just a few. Got my tissue. It's kind of windy up here, so I don't want to lose my speech after I worked so hard on it. 3 times, I might add. Thanks, everybody, for coming this morning. I am so humbled to be here in front of you all and receiving this honor. Well, where do I begin? This shouldn't take too long. I once answered my father with the question, I can't do that. When he asked me to do a task for him, he sternly turned to me and said, "You know what Kant did? Nothing." I don't remember if I completed the task he asked me to do, but I sure never forgot that conversation. As I think about that father and daughter conversation so many years ago, the question becomes, why can't I? When Betsy Jacobs called me and asked if I'd be interested in teaching Sunday school, the question in my mind was, why can't I? So I did that for 12 years while my kids, Missy and Mark, were attending Sunday school. When Yvonne Remy called and asked if I would be a room mother for the elementary school classrooms with my kids were in, I thought, why can't I? I was a stay-at-home mother at that time, and I loved kids to this day. So I did that for several different classrooms while the kids were in elementary school, and it was fun to work with these teachers, planning parties and helping with student opportunities, and also helping them teach. And one of the basic things I especially like to do was helping with the weekly spelling test. My dream was to be a teacher, and I felt that I was one when I was helping in those classrooms. When Mr. Gary Lacher called and asked if I'd be interested in helping Kristen and Kim Severson learn the English language as they just got adopted by Wes and Esther, that question came up again. Why can't I? What satisfaction I received watching those girls learn the English language so quickly. When Yvonne Remy called and asked if I'd be interested in working a shift at the concession stand during the Belleville community picnic, oh, I so wanted to become part of Belleville, this beautiful community, and why can't I was the question, was an easy answer for me because, of course, I would love to. When Barb Funseth, God bless her and may she rest in peace, called and asked if I would be interested in being a leader for Missy's Girl Scout troop, once again that question, why can't I? I did say, no, I don't think I can do that, Barb. I don't know a thing about Girl Scouting. Barb, being Barb, said, oh, it's no problem. You just go with the flow and you have a great time. She was absolutely correct. Thank you, Barb, for believing in me. Not only did I receive warm fuzzies from the girls, but I made friends with the adult leaders, and I'm still friends with them today. When Gerald Meade Nolden called and asked if Greg and I would be interested in being the organizational leaders for the Belleville Busy Beavers, once again, the question, why can't I? Greg and I were both former 4-H members, and Mark had recently joined 4-H, so we thought we needed to be part of that club to continue. So for 32 years, I have been just that. It's been wonderful to watch those members grow and learn and become better people because of their 4-H experience. Once again, it's been wonderful. When Mr. Lacher called in 1986 and asked if I'd be interested in a paid position of the elementary school playground supervisor, instructional assistant, once again the question is, why can't I? So for 11 years, I held that position. I learned the kids in so many different ways during recess, different in their classrooms, and I was their teacher in a different place. Down beast. One bonus of working in the elementary school was being able to work with Mrs. Yvonne Remy. As everyone knows, I'll get rid of this. There. As everyone knows, the office at the old elementary school wasn't very big, but I was so fortunate to be able to work so closely with her. And never once did we disagree on anything. Oh, yeah, well, maybe once. One day, I was decorating for Valentine's Day, And I was putting up all my little things that I always had on the windows. And finally she told me, I really don't like hearts. And I was married to Greg on Valentine's Day, so hearts were kind of special to me. I thought, oh, well, you're going to see them and get them anyway. Sorry, Yvonne, I still love hearts. Bless you. When in 1997, the current high school building was built and the configurations of the classes were moved into different locations. Mr. Lacher asked if I'd be interested in the elementary school building secretary position, as Mrs. Remy was moving to the intermediate school to become the head secretary there. Once again, the question, why can't I? This answer was also a quick yes. So for 17 years, I remained with the elementary school family. Oh, what great times and wonderful memories. Thank you, Mr. Lacher, for believing I could do the job that Mrs. Remy left behind. I so love working with all those students and the wonderful staff. It has meant so much to me. We became a elementary school family, and we're very, very close, and to this day, I love them all. In 2014, Jennifer Wood was leaving her position at the high school. I was involuntarily transferred to the high school to fill her vacant role. That is a huge role. Once again, the question was, why can't I? This one was a little harder for me to answer. I was leaving all those cute little muffins down at the elementary school. And it was with a very, very heavy heart I moved to the high school. I really felt I was going to fail at this position. I know Jennifer's shoes were really hard to fill, and I refused to fail because the Swiss came out in me. I told myself, you can do this. So here I am, standing today in front of you, and with my gratitude to all the people I mentioned, I couldn't have done it without you. My mentor, Mrs. Remy, Barb Funseth, for believing in me. Thank you. Don't let can't get in your way. Don't let it get in your way. Yes, I can say, and you should say, I can. Please always give back to your community wherever you might end up. It is very important and it's so loving. I've made my Belleville family and it's wonderful. So in my closing, I want to say any former elementary school students out there will remember when you did something wrong in the playground, you ended up at the wall. So you were there for like 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer if I thought you needed it. And you stood there, and then I went over and I sternly said, what exactly did you do wrong? And sometimes they would answer and say, yeah, I screwed up. And I'd say, yes, you did. Can you improve? Yeah, I can improve. Awesome. Well, guess what, students? Today, I'll be on that wall, but in a different light. So thank you, Belleville. I love my job. I love the people who live here and who I work with. Before I stop talking and go sit down, I have one last thing to say. Never, never forget. Once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat. Students, always remember, I am your biggest fan. No matter what happens, please always come back and visit me. I missed the class of 2021 again this year. I hate the last week of school because I have to say goodbye. It's really, really tough for me. But thank you, and God bless you all.
I might leave my sunglasses on. That's a tough one for me. I've had the pleasure of working with Betty for the last 6 years, and I want to say that I appreciate probably most about her is that she takes the time to make students and parents feel special. I have not met anyone in Belleville with more pride for the community than Betty. Just watch her at a New Glarus game and you'll see what I mean. She is a true asset to the school district with her knowledge of the community and family. So congratulations, Betty. We now welcome to the stage Rasandi Bartle to introduce John J.P. Pamprin.
It is my honor to introduce and congratulate the man, the myth, the legend, John Pamprin, known to most as JP. It seems like everyone knows JP, but few people know just how much he has contributed, not only to the school district, but to the community as well. JP is the type of person who places the utmost value on helping others, which is why he has served our community faithfully, teaching kids for over 40 years. While he taught, he served kids not just in the classroom, but pretty much in every extracurricular he could help out with, outside of the classroom as well. Imagine getting up early, staying late, and helping out consistently, no matter if the task is big or small, for nearly every school event. It seems like quite a lot, but that is what JP does. And he does it with ease and without complaints because it is what he loves. The term team player cannot apply to someone more. Not to mention, having that type of dedication to something grander than oneself is something few people have the strength and passion for, especially for such a duration of time. If the saying goes, showing up is half of the battle, JP clearly wins every battle. JP did all of that while teaching, but even now retired, he continues to sub, attend sporting, theater, and musical events. Talk about an outstanding effort. In addition to teaching, JP has spent his time after school and during summers either coaching volleyball or acting as an assistant coach and volunteer. Having had the chance to work around JP personally, given his active participation in the program, I can confidently say he really does care about each and every kid he mentors, both in and out of the classroom. During volleyball and even PE, JP has a tough love mentality and a competitive streak that pushes and inspires students to better themselves. JP is also caring and compassionate, and if anyone ever has a problem they want to talk about, he will gladly listen and offer up advice. He's more than just your typical friendly guy who's always up for a conversation. Because whether that conversation be lighthearted or one of serious matters, JP fully concentrates on it and truly listens to what that person has to say. For example, a casual scenario that many students have experienced is walking down the hallway and passing JP, who says hello or hey, how are you? At that point, you already know it's going to be a long conversation. But when JP asks the seemingly nonchalant question of how are you, he genuinely cares about your response and will have a full conversation just to make sure you really are doing good. It's one of the many things that makes JP such a valuable member of our community. He takes it upon himself to monitor the welfare of everyone around him. Through and through, JP is someone who strives to put good into the world, and he has continually achieved this through educating students within the community and just by being a genuine and down-to-earth guy. His little comments and mannerisms, even the OCD, has found a place in the hearts of many here in Belleville. I have no doubt that wherever JP goes, his authenticity and passion to help others will follow. It's my honor to congratulate and recognize your service, JP. Thank you for serving our community for all these years and helping lift up others with such grace every day.
Thank you. It is truly such an honor to be here with these colleagues I've had the pleasure of working closely with for so many of you, and now consider them friends. As I look around out here too, I see former students, parents, community members in attendance, and feel very blessed and honored to have had an opportunity to be engaged in your lives. When I was considering what I might share today, I reflected on why I, and possibly others, have been chosen for this honor. Personally, I don't believe it's because of any great accomplishments I've achieved, but rather it was the influence I had in the lives of others. A question I often asked my volleyball players and students was, what do you think is the most important thing in JP, my life? Their answers often first were volleyball. Others said coaching, teaching, being healthy, family. All very good things. But if you truly knew me, I hope you would see that what is most important to me is relationships. And for me personally, this begins with my relationship to God. He's my Father, brother, Lord, Savior, friend. With time, I've become more aware of the importance of relationships. We can be passionate about many things. If you're around me, you've known I was passionate about my coaching, my teaching, volleyball. But I believe what determines the quality of our life is the quality of our relationships. This is where I have found true purpose and meaning in life. In Genesis, the first book of the Bible, God says that He created everything, and it was good, except one thing. He said it was not good for man, Adam, to be alone, and so He created Eve. As we come out of this world pandemic, it's become all too clear to me, and I think probably many of us, how damaging isolation is to people and how much we need quality contact and interactions with each other. If I asked each of you here, what is the most important thing to do with your life? Consider what your response might be. When Jesus was asked this question, His reply was to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. This could be summarized for us in 3 simple principles for living. Number 1, love God. Number 2, love people. And number 3, go out and serve the world. I'd like to think, I would hate for people to think about me when my life is gone and say, oh, he was a great volleyball coach, or he won championships, or he was an excellent teacher, or whatever. What I would love for people to say, and possibly even to be put on a tombstone, is he loved God, he loved people, and he dedicated his life to serving the world. I want to take this opportunity to publicly acknowledge all the students, parents, staff, administrators, and the entire Belleville community that allowed me the privilege of sharing life together. As I sought to love and serve here, I found myself so much more receiving an abundance of love and care. I've been single all my life, but I can't think of a better community that embraced me as family. And for this, I'm eternally grateful. Thank you.
I'll echo what Rasandi said, that JP really is a local celebrity. If someone mentions JP, it's like they're talking about Prince or Sting or Bono. Everyone knows who JP is. Yet despite that, I think he is one of the most selfless individuals that I've ever met. Whenever I see him, he doesn't talk about himself. He asks about me and my family. He's always put others before himself, and I thank you for that, JP. Finally, to introduce Steve Vogler, we will have Roxana Grunenwald return to the stage.
Look, I just think I'm short at this point, but there is an African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Though Vogler was just one person, he was involved in myriad aspects of the village of Belleville and single-handedly shaped the lives of many kids. Vogler taught middle school science, high school physical science, biology, chemistry, physics, anatomy and physiology, and physical education. He coached wrestling as a self-taught coach, varsity football, varsity baseball, and is recognized for his success in coaching and was thus able to mentor some all-star teams. The lane leading to the high school's baseball field is currently named Vogler Way to commemorate his unique and efficacious coaching style. Mr. Vogler has lived in Belleville for 50 years and counting, and was a teacher here at Belleville for 29. Even after retiring in 2014, he continues to sub at Belleville schools, and he still works with the custodial staff to mow lawns and prep the fields and courses for outdoor sporting events. In his free time, he enjoys traveling to watch his grandkids participate in their sports. We spoke to one of his previous students, one of his coworkers, and parents of children who had been vastly impacted by Mr. Vogler to learn more about the disposition behind such a renowned teacher. Character traits that immediately came to mind were passionate, influential, positive, inspirational, personable, humble, honest, supportive, caring, and encouraging. We learned that Mr. Vogler genuinely wanted the best for each and every one of his students and was always encouraging them to seek personal growth along with intellectual knowledge, which would prepare them for their life beyond high school. He would take time to get to know each student individually and would always be supportive of their ambitions they pursued in tandem with their academic endeavors. He was often heard saying, "That's life in the Big Ten," in response to the rigor of his classes, and was rewarded with Belleville graduates frequently returning and thanking them for preparing them for college-level courses. One of his students we spoke to said that every day at the end of class, he always said, "Have a good day or not, the choice is yours," reinforcing to students the importance of independence and responsibility and encouraging the spirit of taking their life and future into their own hands. Even subbing for us in class, he would always say, "Make good choices," as we exited the classroom, promoting the power we have over our destiny. His coworker said, he worked to make people better. He always had the kids' best intentions in mind, and he fostered a work hard, play hard spirit of balance that students took with them into their lives beyond Belleville. He was always willing to take on a challenge if it would help the students, and would follow through, setting a good example of responsibility and healthy ambition. For instance, when first interviewing for a teaching job at Belleville, it was implied that he would also coach wrestling, and so he spent hours poring over the books, learning the best methods to coach wrestling and how to help the students succeed both in and out of the classroom. Even more, he was extremely selfless and would put his students first out of the kindness of his heart and his genuine desire to see others succeed. He embodied a community-centered mind frame where he supported the students in the classroom and on the field and promoted synergy through teamwork and collaboration on activities such as post-prom, which he organized. He believed that everyone could reach their goals and that one person's success would not come at the expense of another's. Through teaching science at both the middle and high school levels, becoming an exceptional coach in a variety of varsity level sports, being extensively involved in the greater Belleville community, and by teaching by example of his own humble and kind self who sought gratification in others' happiness, Mr. Vogler touched each and every one of his students and the staff at Belleville, encouraging them to follow their hopes and dreams. He is a substantial contributor to this village we have and has single-handedly helped raise many, many children to their full potential. We know Mr. Vogler's coworkers, his students, the parents and families of his students who saw him shape their growth would all agree that he is deserving of recognition, and so we are honored to induct him today into the Wildcat Wall of Fame.
Superintendent Perry, Principal Schmidt, school board members, Wall of Fame members, today's inductees, my family. This is tough. My wife of 52 years on the 7th of June, who's put up with my coaching, teaching, and not always being around. My children, my grandchildren, thank you very much. When I got the call from Mr. Perry, I was basically speechless and humbled to be an inductee, and it still seems like a bit of a dream. And when they said I needed to make a speech, it was like, okay. What the superintendent tells you to do, I guess you do, especially when you're still employed at the school district. And I even see my boss sitting over there, who was one of my former students, and now he's telling me what I'm supposed to do, so it's very, very interesting. But I so enjoy my retirement here. Sharon, before I go on, do you still have a overhead projector? The last year I was here, I actually wore out the last one. And when I put the screen up, my senior said to me, Mr. Vogler, you have a smart board. And I said, is that what that's called? So that tells you I was more than ready to retire from education, and it's been great. A special thank you go to my mom and dad. Chores in the morning, that meant getting up at 5:30, getting ready for school. In the summer, Dad hit us balls. In the fall, he threw passes to us. In the winter, we shot hoops outside. Mom taught school. There were 5 boys, so when you worked outside, the other half worked inside. And I think that's where a lot came from. And yes, folks, I've said this over and over. We had a TV when I was in 2nd grade, black and white, 1 channel, and you had to stand up to turn it on and off. While in college, I got to work at the middle school and coach basketball. And it was under the guidance of the principal there that I probably learned one of the most important life things when it comes to the school. And that is, you better get to know and understand the cooks, the librarian, the secretaries, and the custodians, because they're the ones that are going to take care of you. And thank you for taking care of me while I was here. I really appreciate it. I earned my degree at UW River Falls, and I was back working at Farm and Fleet in Chippewa Falls. And like all college kids, I'd sent out letter after letter to try to find a job. And Suddenly I got a call from the superintendent of Belleville. And Mr. Fitch said, I'm going to be in the area in a couple days. Could we chat? And I said, sure. And so basically I'm sitting in the Cadillac, and here's the interview. Would you be willing to teach middle school science? Yep. I know you want to coach football. Would you be willing to coach wrestling? Yep. Good. I'll send you a contract. I had officiated 80-plus basketball games in my junior and senior year in college. I took classes on coaching football. I took classes on coaching basketball. And now I'm going to coach wrestling. My high school record, and I don't know if I should admit to this, but to give you a perspective, I pinned a guy, I drew with a guy, and I got pinned. So I'm 500, and I guess that's success. But that is my wrestling experience, and yes, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what's going on there. Once I got my contract, we were living in a mobile home, and we had to transfer, get it down here. And my lovely wife, as we're driving into Middleton, if you remember, you old timers, the Sinclair station out there, she looks at me and she said, 2 years and we're going home. That was 49 years ago. As we were coming down our mobile home got parked in Middleton. It rained. The sliding glass door came open. Everything got soaked. We stayed with the Fitch family, so here I am staying with the superintendent. What a way to start your career in Belleville. It's been awesome. School starts, everything is going good. We have a great football season. Wrestling starts, and Mr. Pickering looks at me and he says, well, Steve, the best way for you to learn is get on the mat. And so I wrestled with the 167-pounders and up, and only because I still had some physical strength was I able to be somewhat successful. But you talk about really getting to know young people. When you're face-to-face on a mat, you get to know them real well. 3 years later, I took over as a head coach, and we had some extremely successful years. I stepped away from education for a few years, continuing to coach baseball and watch my children participate forever. And one night I was up north, and I was whining about not being back in teaching. And my wife said, then go back. And thank you, Mr. Moult. He hired me back, taught physical education, physical science, football, baseball, prom coordinator. And the last thing he said to me is, you're going to take over as the chairperson of the chicken serving at the community picnic. 2 years later, I'm chairperson. Being part of post-prom was a lot of fun. It was an opportunity to be around students in a very casual environment. We enjoyed a lot of good food and a lot of fun. By 4 in the morning, we were all pretty punchy and, needless to say, tired. But we were safe, and I enjoyed every minute of it. When Mr. Multer retired, I became the biology teacher, and it was the beginning of the infamous insect collection. And from what I understand, I've heard rumors that parents are still throwing out containers that contain insects in that I told that they should freeze. So I've heard that rumor. I can't believe it. And the second rumor that I still hear is that there are paint cans out there that the labels are gone, because in 9th grade science, I wanted the kids to see what chemicals were made of various things so they tear the labels off. So I believe that's a rumor, but just think of that family bonding time that you spent helping your child pass that part of science. One final rumor that's still out there is I always told my students, hang on to your science notes because you never know when you're actually going to need them. And some of them said, I still have them. So I guess they listened better than I thought they did. Coaching was always probably one of the best parts of the day for me, and here I am receiving an honor on a football field. Pretty special. As a coach, I had the opportunity to help young men develop not only into better athletes, but to be a greater person. As those of you that play the game know what it's like, you get knocked down and you have to get up and be ready for the next play. And folks, that's life. A flashback, I coached Belleville. We went to Belleville, New Glarus, Monticello. We went to Belleville, Albany. And finally, Betty, I got us back here to just Belleville. In baseball, we had one really good team. Of the 9 athletes that played for me the most of the time, 4 of those went on to play in college. So it's really not coaching, it's having kids that are good athletes and work really hard to be better. And I thank you for the ride. I guess there's always a time where you wonder how good you were as a dad and a coach. I had a chance to coach against Ryan 4 different times in baseball. He was a head coach at Bangor, and guess what? I got beat 4 years in a row. Thank God he moved on to a different position. These are just a few of the great memories that I have of someone giving me an opportunity to teach in Belleville, to raise my family, and really, it's the young men and women who are now the adults of this community that deserve this honor. I'm just a tiny part of what you gave to me. It's been a wonderful ride. And as I always told my students at the end of class, have a great day, make good choices. Good luck, athletes, and you non-athletes, enjoy your day. I'll see your smiling faces tomorrow, and if you're not smiling, I'll see you anyway. Thank you.
Steve retired the year before I came, middle and high school principal, but very quickly that first September, I started calling his house at about 6:25 a.m. And sometimes it was Steve, other times it was Bonnie, and then Bonnie would pass the phone over to Steve. But on almost every single occasion, unless there was an appointment, with about as much chipper as you can have at 6:30 a.m., Steve would say, yep, I'll be there before 8 a.m., ready to go. And I want to thank Steve for that. And more so, I try to be a good dad. I look at Steve as a grandfather. His granddaughter, my daughter, played volleyball together. I think Steve made more games than I had and would know more what's going on with the team. And that just shows you what he does for all of his kids and his grandkids. So it's been a pleasure to get to know Steve for the last 7 years. To wrap things up, I'm going to introduce Marion Vinny. She is our board clerk, but also has been a member of the Wildcat Wall of Fame since its inception and been a key cog in getting this all together. And just one last thing for me, when we thought about this idea and the board asked, Bart pushed on it and said, why aren't we doing more for, again, alumni, staff, community members? This is the type of day that we envisioned. These 6 wonderful people and family members here on stage. This is what we had hoped for. Thank you for enduring the heat, but this is what we had thought was going to happen, and I just can't thank you enough for being here and for our 6 inductees today. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. And I've had the opportunity to work with a few of the people up on stage for a little while. And the one word that we kept on hearing today was dedication. And so just take a minute and think of the hours and the lifetimes that have been put into this community and this school district with the people on the stage. And not only them, but the families. It isn't just the person on the stage, but it's the families and the time that they were involved in the community as well. So thank you to all the family members, and thank you to the Young Samaritans and the leader, Chad. He does a wonderful job with that group. And to interview these great people, as a journalist, I would have loved the opportunity. So I hope that all their speeches can be saved and people can read them in the future, because it's such a gift to this community and to the school district. So I'd also like to thank the administration, the rest of the school board members, and the other members on the Wall of Fame committee. This is just a great opportunity to really highlight people in the community that have done so much for everyone. Thank you.
How about one more round of applause for our 6 inductees this year in 2020? There will be an opportunity if you want to come up. They have both their commemorative plaques that they'll be able to take home, the zinc plaques that will go up on the west or at a student entrance to the high school. Those will go up in the next few weeks. And then in the library, if you'd like to join us, there are 2 doors. It's the athletic concession door where the bathrooms are, and then the art door. Those are both open. If you'd like to join us in the library, there's some cake and punch. If you'd like to talk to our inductees, otherwise, if you'd like to come up and take some pictures on the stage, that would be fantastic. Thank you, everyone.